Hi, I'm Allison from Alongside Caregiver Consulting, and I have a few reflections that I'd like to share with you. Hindsight is always 2020, and I'm ready to put 2020 into my rearview mirror. How about you? But before I do, I'd like to share some of my reflections and things I cherished and things I learned from 2020. I'd like to share them with you. How did this year pass so quickly? For me, a lot of my time was spent reconfiguring a workshop that I had been part of with five other social workers to present a live workshop in March of 2020 in Vancouver, Canada. We had spent many hours working on this workshop, and when COVID struck and everything shut down, I think we had to grieve because we put so much effort into this workshop. So we pivoted, and over the next several months we converted this into an online presentation, which we successfully delivered in November of 2020. So this was made possible through the devotion, dedication, and collaboration of the six of us, whilst navigating our respective commitments during COVID-19. Another thing I'd like to reflect on is how important it was to continue to facilitate support groups during the restrictions, supporting caregivers, primarily of folks or partners with dementia or loved ones with dementia. The needs of the caregiver didn't magically disappear just because we had to restrict our interactions. We found ways to connect in backyards, safely distanced, marked that 6 feet apart thing, just so everybody was safe. And our numbers grew. So this meant dividing and making an additional support group. And I think it grew because people were feeling really isolated and just needed supports outside of the home. And I posed the idea of doing support groups through Zoom, but this was not met favorably by the folks in the support groups that I'm involved in, as they wanted that human interaction. Even if it was not a physical interaction, it was a visual. There's another person here and I can see their whole body language, and that really meant a lot and resonated with them. I reflected on how empowering it is to find ways to serve others. I tried to find creative ways to provide ongoing support and encouragement for caregivers. And this birthed for me Island Treasures, the podcast, where caregivers are given a platform to share their stories and provide tips and encouragement to hopefully travel the airways into the homes of other caregivers who may be feeling stuck, isolated, and alone. I reflected on how selfless caregivers often are. I reflect on this all the time. As I have often said, caregivers are my heroes. I reflected on how terribly precious life is. And I'm sure we all know of someone who didn't make it through 2020. And my heart goes out to each one of you who is grieving. What I cherished my family. I cherished my community. I cherish my beloved caregivers. All caregivers, those who I know personally and those who I don't know personally. I cherish my health, and both my husband and I, we had some ups and downs this past year, but we have a healthcare system here in Canada that is great, and we cherish that, and we cherish our good health. I cherish my ability to make choices, the freedom to make choices, and I cherish my faith. What I learned in 2020, I'm not too old to learn new things. And I'll take that all the way through 2021. I learned how passionate I am to support caregivers on their journeys. I learned how to podcast. Now, this is not the end. This is just an ongoing learning experience for me. I learned how to use hair clippers. Who knew it was so easy? Yeah, all that money wasted on barbers all these years, and I could have been cutting my husband's hair. Anyway, now I do, and it works. I learned new recipes, and one of my favorites is the Thai green papaya salad. Oh my goodness, it's so good. Google it and try it. I learned I'm not ready to give up. I learned how to make Zoom fun. Did you know there's like filters you can put on your face? It's really cool. And you can do virtual backgrounds, even with an unpaid account. Very clever. I learned how to make masks. I'm a sewer anyway, but this was really important during COVID to make masks for myself, my family, and for friends and people who needed them. And most of all, I learned I'm not in control. Many more lessons I learned, many more things I cherish, many more things I reflected on. But those are just the highlights from 2020 for me. Now I'm ready to move forward. Would you care for me to come alongside with you as we travel through into 2021? All the best, and thanks for listening.